Hello, everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. I hope you're all doing very, very well. Welcome back to the channel. We've got a match preview today, and we're playing Leicester tomorrow. I do apologise for the lunch show. Those of you who are ready for it, there's a bit of a fuck up on my part. Forgot to give Scott the password, so he couldn't get in. Sorry about that, mate.
Nah, it's all right. These things happen.
Do you know what? I did think to myself, I'm going to rush home and I'm going to do a 3 o'clock. And then I just thought to myself, like me and Charlie were just talking about it, like, what do you talk about? What's so pressing?
Very much. And it's not like it's not a massive game either.
I mean, it is a big game, but everyone's under the impression that we should easily walk through Leicester. I don't see that being easy, though.
Well, big game in terms of connotations for Champions League, but in terms of like actual size of the fixture, it's not massive.
Did you guys did you watch the Aston Villa game?
No, mate. I watched the Sidemen charity match instead.
Oh, fucking hell, mate! The game is gone.
Mate, you talk about games gone. They would have done more viewing numbers than probably all them Premier League games today.
Oh, 100%.
Seriously?
They make 90k
raised about 4 million.
Yeah, raised 4 mil, 90k sold out in Wembley, and they had about over 2 million watching on the Sidemen lives on Sidemen YouTube channel. Bro, these guys are different level.
That is actually crazy. But why is it so interesting to watch people who aren't even that good at football playing football?
I don't know.
I think it's because you don't see it all the time, and like it's who they get as well. Like you'll have a bunch of different guys most of the time, like come and play who you never see play. I think is kind of the main thing behind it.
Scott, like I know Speed was one of the big guys.
Oh, you don't watch it.
You're not good at football.
Yeah, you're not.
No, he's not good at football, but it's like that. But that's not the point. Like I think didn't end like 14, 13. They're not watching it for, bro. If you're watching that for football reasons, you're doing it wrong. It ended like 14, 13. I saw one of the goals the Sidemen scored that Toby scored, and it was like, bro, it's one of the worst goals I've ever seen scored. But it's like, who cares? And that's not why people watch it.
Pay attention to that stuff. I actually, the Brentford game was good as well. Villa won 1-0. Brentford at the post. Villa scored 2 goals in like 1 minute, but the second one got disallowed.
Disasi was man of the match as well, wasn't he?
He was good, mate. And he was a right back as well.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, what I would say on that, just quickly, right, is that it didn't really suit our system. Fine, no problem. But you always are taking a big risk when you loan someone out to a Champions League rival. Just because they're not doing the business for you doesn't mean that they can't help someone else out. And, you know, you wouldn't want to... I'm not saying that Disasi would be the difference between Villa qualifying and not qualifying for Champions League, but it's certainly done them a favour.
Well, he's playing, so he clearly brings something to that team. I mean, I'm sure Cash came on at one point as well. So maybe they played a back 3 and I was just a bit silly.
Well, because they played midweek Champions League, so they've probably done a little bit of rotation.
Yeah, I mean...
Keeping you up, mate?
Villa got the job done, mate. Villa got the job done. Honestly, mate, I did the stream with Don yesterday, and... I was so tired, man. I was so tired. Like, Denmark was unbelievable. I think I've already spoken to you about it, Chuck. But I was absolutely... Because, Scott, I come back. I fell asleep in Heathrow Airport in the arrivals because I thought... Because Dan was meant to come on the podcast. And Dan couldn't do it. He had some personal stuff. So I was like, okay, cool. There's this free spot. Feel like I should just do it. Why not? I'm already in London. It's not easy to get to Barnes from Heathrow on public transport, but it's like, well, it's easier than if I was coming from where I live. So I thought, listen, it's like 8 a.m. I'm going to have an hour and a half kip just on one of the chairs in Heathrow, and I fall asleep, and I've probably been asleep for about half an hour on a chair, and I get woken up by the security at Heathrow Airport. And it's like 2 big blokes. I don't know if they've got guns. I don't think they've got guns, but they're kitted out, you know, and they're serious people. They don't mess around. And it's like they're polite, but you don't mess around with them. And they were like, "Oh, sorry to wait you, sir. Can we have some identification, please?" It's just like, fuck. I was shitting myself. And then obviously I gave him my passport. Like, what are you doing here? Where are you going? I was like, no, I just came. I was in Copenhagen for the football, and I had a Chelsea shirt on and everything. I was like, I was going for the game. And they looked through my stuff and they're like, oh, so what are you doing? I was like, well, I thought I'd go to sleep because I'm about to go on a podcast. And they were like, what? Obviously, it's a bit weird, isn't it?
It's not weird. It's not weird to sleep in an airport, though. Everyone sleeps in an airport.
Nah, but it's like you're supposed to be leaving and you've decided to stay just to sleep there.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. So it's not in the departures bit. It's in the arrive.
No,
you've got off the flight, and instead of fucking off, you've just sat down for a sleep.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to do it in my head. I was like, well, I can't just sleep. Like, what am I going to do? Sleep on a bench in London, like on the street?
Yeah, that's
a bit weird, isn't it? Like, you can get away with it in an airport, can't you? And it's warm. And I was like, okay.
Well, you really can't.
No, that's true. But yeah, and then I showed them the channel. And they were like, one of the guys, obviously, I don't think he knew anything about football. He was like, how many subscribers? And then eventually they let us go. Well, they let me go. And I tried to get back to sleep, but I was a bit creeped out by that point. I was like, I can't get it.
It's a bit weird, that.
Yeah. So I ended up getting the train, saw you guys in the studio. And then I was back to work straight after that. Bloody working until 7:30. And I thought I wasn't going to get back for the pod, and my client offered me a lift back home. I was loving it. So yeah, got back and did the pod with Don and went straight to bed.
Unbelievable.
I'm not surprised.
Anyone who jumped on here for football chat, fucking hell, sorry to disappoint you, because I just tell you my life story there. But let's get into it. Right, Daniel, big up to you, my friend. I hope you're doing well. Lawrence as well. He says Palmer has to score tomorrow. Do we see Palmer starting tomorrow, guys?
Yeah. Mate, he always starts.
Yeah. Damien said he called Maresca starting the other day. He's seeing some things. Fair enough, Damien. Big up to Nehemiah. Big up to Yusuf as well. No, I'll be honest with you, Yusuf. Look, I'm not watching any of that Sidemen crap. I'm not watching that. I'm sorry. I'm not on board. Look, if they invite me to play, then maybe.
Mate, 3 p.m. The 3 p.m.s today were dead. So shit.
Was the game at 3 p.m.?
Yeah.
That's a smart move. That is a smart move. All right, they've done well there. Yeah, fair play to them. I am quite impressed with the numbers. Like 4 mil, that's good. But even if I wasn't, even if I loved the Sidemen, right? Why is watching them play football so entertaining? I don't.
Because they're all shit.
Yeah, but it's just a waste of time. It's like
it's for charity. It's not for football. It's a charity thing. Like you're not watching it for good football. It's just something you just have on. Like you're not like sort of proper engrossed in it. Like, oh my god, he's doing X, Y, Z, and their stats and shit. And it's just a bit of a laugh.
Yeah, fair enough. Here's a stat for you guys. Chelsea's points tallies since last winning the Premier League. So here's what we've got. I'll zoom in on this one for you. I'm sure you've probably seen this. So we finished on 70, 72, 66, 67, 74, 44, and 63. Where do we see ourselves finishing? Do we see ourselves beating 63?
How many points we're on at the moment? 46, is it?
I think we're on 46. Yes.
Yeah, 46. And we got 11 games left.
Is it 100% we're on 46? Let me double check.
Yeah, 46.
I'm pretty certain it's 46.
Yeah, we're on 46.
I'll be honest, with the games that we've got left, I think it could be quite difficult to beat that 63. I'll be honest. I'm not saying it's impossible. I think it could be quite difficult.
Part of me as well thinks that little bit of confidence that I had against Forest for the last game of the season, seeing that they beat City as well.
But it's still a lot can change though between now and then. It's still like a month and it's still about 6 weeks away. So a lot can still change. But we could be in a situation where we actually score less points than last season but get Champions League football. You know, that's still very plausible.
You think so?
It's a possibility. I'm not saying I think it's going to. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it can't be ruled out. I think we could get less points. What I would say is I think you could see a situation where potentially less than 60 points could get you Champions League football, just given how competitive it is in their positions.
Well, we're competing against Forest City, Brighton are 6th, Villa are 7th. Is that updated?
Yeah, Brighton won today. Yeah,
hell. Newcastle on 44, Bournemouth on 43. Jesus, things change quick, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. I mean, realistically, so do you think we're competing with Bournemouth, or do we cut some teams out of that equation? I mean, even Fulham are on 40.
I think at the moment all those teams are competing. Everyone from Bournemouth up is competing for Champions League current, like those spots currently. Because like Howie said, it's so close. But I think depending on certain performances, like I think we see with the Forest game today, like if City have a couple more performances like that, they could drop out. I think Villa, if they carry on going far in the Champions League, they could drop out just due to the nature of like. I think they've got a decent squad, but I think you see that like they're having to play Disassi at right back. They're still having to rotate certain other guys in, so like I think they could be someone who pulls off. So I think it would just depend. I genuinely see us like there's only like 2 or 3 games that I can genuinely say I think we definitely win from the 11 that we have left.
Yeah, I mean I'm hoping that Villa and even City, to be fair, like I'm hoping they have a good run in the Champions League just so they have more.
City have gone for the Champions League.
City are out.
Oh fuck!
You mean Liverpool?
Well, Liverpool aren't really in that conversation. I mean, we're not competing with Liverpool. But yeah, sorry, not City, just Villa in that case. Like I'm hoping that they'll get further and they'll just have to play more minutes. And that
the problem we've got is that unfortunately, for us to get Champions League, we're going to have to beat 2 or 3 very good teams, and we haven't beaten a good team in quite a while, let alone away from home. I genuinely think that if we're going to get Champions League football from Arsenal, Brentford, Forest, and Newcastle away, from those 4 games, and Fulham as well, you look at those 5 games, you probably, if you want Champions League football, we legitimately need 10 to 12 points from those 5 games. We're going to have to win at least 3 of those 5 games away from home if we want Champions League football. And we haven't beaten a decent team for a long time.
I was going to say, our last 6 games of the season are Fulham away, Everton, who are on a high at home, Liverpool at home, Newcastle away, United at home, and Forest away. Like, I agree with what Charlie said. Like, you're out of those 6, like, for us to finish top 4, and the one thing is we may not need to finish top 4. I think that's another bit of this. But for us to finish top 4, we need to be winning at least half, like at least 2, maybe half of those games, 2 or 3 of those games. Like you say, we probably could beat Everton. Cool. Fulham's an iffy one. That still means you got to beat one of Liverpool, Newcastle, United, or Forest. And I know United are terrible right now, but
you need just 2 wins from them 4. You need 2 wins from those 4, in my opinion. Like, I think the best case scenario we can hope for is that Liverpool have already won the league by then, and they turn up and they're not really on it. That's the best case scenario there.
I think that could happen though. That's realistic.
It could happen. It could potentially happen. But then you look at the record at St James's Park. It is absolutely abysmal. Our record there. Look at the record at the City Ground. We've only beaten Forest once. I think once. Have we beaten Forest 1 time since they come up in since they've been promoted to the Premier League? Once.
We lost them last.
I think we've lost. I think we've lost to them. I think we've lost to them twice.
We drew
once at Stamford Bridge and 2 draws, and then we drew under Graham Potter at the City Ground, and then so we've beaten them out of 5 games against them since they come up. We've beaten them once.
That was when they were shit,
and that was last season. 3-2.
Effect.
Last season we beat them 3. So like these are games where you're looking at it, and legitimately those last 3 games we've got Newcastle away, United home, and Forest away. That's probably their shootout for the Champions League. Those 2, I mean, hopefully we get to that point and we're still in it. But those last 3 could even put last 5 games, they will decide whether we get Champions League football or not. Because we're going to drop points between now and the end of the season, but so are City, so are Villa, so are Bournemouth, so are Newcastle. It's going to come down to, I mean, it might sound obvious, but it's not about who wins the most games. It's going to come down to who drops the least points.
Yeah, you're right. I've got a question here from Tom. He says, with Tomori out of favour at AC Milan, would you take him back?
No.
No, but I think it's mainly because of the injuries he's had. I think his first, what was it, like two and a half years in Milan where he was great. I think he got a serious injury. I want to say it was an ACL, and since then, from everything I've heard, he's not been the same since that injury.
Is that what it is? It's because of an injury? I didn't realise that.
Yeah, he got a bad injury. I don't know if it was an ACL, but it was a long-term injury. And he was out for a while. And yeah, since then, he's just not looked the same.
Well, so we're not calling him injury prone. We're just saying that injury's affected the way.
Oh yeah, no, he's not injury prone. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he's definitely had a drop off, as Scott said, since his first couple of seasons at Milan, where he was outstanding.
I'm with you guys. Okay, so if I was to ask you a week ago before we played Copenhagen, well, not even a week, a couple of days ago before we played Copenhagen, right? We've got to get a certain amount of points out of a certain amount of games, right? And this is where we are in the table right now, right? So we're on 46 points. Now, I was looking at this the other day just to get a bit of a grip. And now, obviously, 5th doesn't mean as much in context because 5th meant nothing in terms of Champions League ever since, this is the first year, isn't it?
Well, last year as well, but not for the Premier League. But
yeah, but not for us at least.
It would have been if we'd done better, but yeah, we ended up.
But we'll look at 5th this season and we'll go, oh, okay, those are the 5 in the Champions League. Whereas if you were 5th last year, it was like, oh, you bottled it, you couldn't get Champions League. So I think that's something people have to take into consideration. They're like, oh, this team would have finished in the Champions League, but it's like, well, if the pressure was really on and that was genuinely the situation, would it have been the same? I mean, I don't know. So we've seen last year to get 5th, you needed 66 points. That's top.
It won't be anywhere near that much this year. No chance.
You don't think so?
Well, considering Forest are 3rd on 51, I think it is.
Yeah, that's true. The year before that, you had to get 67 points. That was Liverpool to finish 5th. The year before that, 69 points. And we'll go 2 more years back. 62 from Leicester. And 70 from Arsenal. What do we think, guys? What's realistic here?
It's gonna be less than, it's gonna be probably the lowest total in the last few years to get Champions League football. I think that's obvious.
It'd be lower than Leicester's.
Yeah, lower than 62. Yeah, I think so.
Which one was that? That was 1920. This one.
Yeah,
lower than 62.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Oh, I think I predicted. What did Poch finish on? 62 as well, right?
No, 63.
63. The optimistic side of me that says if we're able to get points, like we need 4 points off of those last 4 games, so a win and a draw. And that tells me, based on the other games that we should be winning and giving us a little bit of leeway against Arsenal and what was the other one? And Brentford. I've got us down to drop points in those games. If we were able to get a result against Fulham and I mean, I can see us beating Tottenham, so I don't think that would be a problem. That sets us up really, really well. But then we've got to perform against, was it Liverpool first, then Newcastle, then United, then Forest?
Yeah,
I don't see us beating Newcastle, but I do think we could get at least a point against United, if not a win. And I feel a similar way against Liverpool. And then Forest, to be honest with you, is just totally 50s. I don't have anyone to be favourite in that game.
I think the Forest games are going to come down to where they're at the end of where they're at the end of the season. Because I think if they've already qualified for the Champions League at that point, if they're 3rd, say, and they're comfortably 3rd, they've got no chance of dropping out. then maybe they rotate their team potentially.
But be their last home game of the season, they probably won't want to go out on a damp squib, will they? But no, it's potentially a fair point. If they have already qualified, then they maybe they just. But again, it works both ways, doesn't it? They could play with no pressure, and that could be a problem as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Brighton weren't even in this conversation. How the fuck did Brighton get there?
Mate, Brighton, since they lost 7-0 to Forest, have won 6 games on the spin in the league.
Yeah.
They're doing a good job, man. Because I spoke to a Brighton fan and he said to me, this is before we played them, he said, like, you know, we just don't really know what's going to happen with the team. We don't have any consistency.
They found some now.
Yeah, they found it. And then you've got the Emery effect at Villa. I think that's real, to be honest with you. I really do. I think that's a problem. City just have money. Like, they've solved their problems financially.
I don't think City have solved their problems.
Well, in terms of spending money and reinforcing the squad, like whether the players work is one thing, but at least they've freshened it up, you know. Like, we did the opposite. Does that not make you feel like you're behind Villa and City just based on that alone?
I don't think we're behind Villa. No, we've made it more difficult perhaps to finish ahead of them, but we're still a good chunk of points. I say a good chunk of points. We've got a gap on them. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if Man City didn't finish in the Champions League. I still think they'll be favourites to finish in that in the top 5, but I wouldn't be surprised, given the way that they're playing, given how much consistency they lack. I could see them maybe finishing 6th. It's not out the equation at all. But then again, we could easily finish 7th or 8th. You know, it's the gap so tight between 4th and 10th that a couple of wins you could be 3rd, but a couple of losses you could be 9th or 10th. Like, such fine margins. Like, and again, it depends what way you want to look at it. But I suppose you've got to provide balance. There's no point just saying, "Oh yeah, we win tomorrow, we're 2 points off 3rd." But the reality is, like, you're also got to be aware that you're 4 points away from 10th place. And with the run of fixtures we've got coming up, you could easily see us losing a number of those. And then suddenly, a good season suddenly looks like you could finish mid-table if you're not careful.
Yeah. I don't know. Hang on a second. It's Tom says, can 6th get Champions League?
No.
I've been looking at this, trying to work it out. I don't think so. No, I think there is a way that there can be 7 teams in the Champions League next season, but 2 of those teams would end up being like, they would have to be like Villa and United not finishing in the top 5 plus the other 5. If Liverpool win, it doesn't make a difference. Like, that 5th spot would either go to us if we get the coefficient, which we're 1st in, I think, or would go to whoever's 5th if Liverpool win the title. Like, it doesn't matter either way. So it's only 5 teams from positions can get in next season.
Okay, so monkey game. United have to lose the Europa League.
We've got to make sure, though, if we finish 5th, how typical would it be if we finish 5th, right? But then we get booted out because United or Spurs win the fucking Europa.
Oh no! I don't think that applies for the coefficient thing, because we get given an extra spot anyway.
That does make sense, Scott. That does make sense, because we did it to Tottenham in 2012.
We did it to Tottenham when we finished 5th and they finished 4th. So there was only 4 spots available, and they took the 4th spot. But because we won the Champions League, we booted them out.
My point is, though, like, that 5th spot, would that then not go to the Europa League winners, or do you then get 6 in because it's an additional spot? I don't know.
That's a good question. I don't actually know how that would work. I don't know what supersedes the other, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I suppose
the easiest hierarchy is on that.
The easiest way to avoid that is just finish 4th.
The annoying thing is with this, like, it's a catch-22, right? Because if United and Tottenham both go out, that's good for us on that state, but then that affects the coefficient. Like, obviously, it's not weighted as much, but like, you then need Liverpool pretty much to get to the final, because Villa aren't getting to the final. Let's be real. Like, I don't think they get past the next round, depending on who they face. So, yeah, and I think Real Madrid get to the final, and Spain are 3rd. So yeah, I don't know how it's going to work out.
We need to
the same situation as last. I'll be right. It's the same situation we were in last season, and my stance is the same. Like, stop being in a position where you need other teams to win and relying on other teams to get yourself in the Champions League. Just get yourself in the Champions League, and then you don't have to worry. Finish fourth, and it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you don't want to leave yourself open to these potential pitfalls. You know, you just don't want to do it. You know, we fell foul of it last season. We don't want that to. We don't want that shit happening again. So
it happened to us 3 times last season. Sorry to interrupt. It happened 3 times. First of all, we had to just get. I think we had to rely on Liverpool winning the Europa League, and they lost to Atalanta. We had to rely on. I think we had to rely on someone in the Champions League, and then we had to rely on City in the FA Cup final, and we failed 3 times.
Part of me is thinking that in my head, and I'm like, God, can you imagine? Like, I don't even want to think about it.
No, but you could see it happen.
No, but I'm not going to lie. I don't even want to think. Can you imagine if Tottenham won it and we were 5th and they took our spot?
I've just looked, by the way.
We never hear the end of it.
Based on what I'm reading on the Premier League website, it would be if Tottenham or United won the Europa League, based on where they're finished, it would be the top 5 plus them. There would be 6 English teams in the Champions League next season.
Oh, okay.
Is it?
Yeah.
6 teams.
To be honest,
as I said, it could be 7 if Villa somehow win it and don't finish in the top 5, but that's never happening. So,
but hang on, but Scott, have they just totally changed the rule? Then is that just different?
They added. Well, this coefficient thing has been there. I think it was definitely there last season. I want to say it's been there for a few seasons, but yeah. So basically, the top 2 teams in the coefficient, the top 2 countries, I should say, their leagues both get an extra Champions League spot. So, like last season, for example, it was Italy and Germany or Spain.
Spain or something as well.
Maybe, but Italy was definitely one of them. And then, so we'd get 5 because we're top, and then it would be then the Europa League winner, and then the Champions League winner if they finish out the top 5. So we'd have 6 teams basically because Villa aren't winning it. Which is going to be nuts. Which almost certainly means, well, not almost certainly, but you feel like then at least 2 English teams feel like they're going to face each other next season. I would be surprised if they didn't.
Fair. Christian, why do you think I want us to fail? Of course I want Chelsea to succeed, but I presume we're just talking about. I've got to put my head up here a little bit. I presume we're just talking about recent games. I mean, recently we've been quite poor. So I mean, I don't think that anyone could be positive about the performances recently. But it was a good result against Copenhagen. And we are getting some good players back. I know Jackson should be back hopefully in a couple of weeks. Lavia's in the squad, Fofana's in the squad. So it'd be nice to have them back for a couple of games if they can last. Yeah. So, but I mean, what do you want me to say? That I'm enjoying the football? No, I'm not enjoying it. And by the way, every fan that I'm speaking to that goes to games, everybody's saying the same thing. Like they're going, Alex, I totally agree with you. Like people just don't talk about it enough because they're perceived as just negative, but it's realistic. Like you're in the stadium and it's different to watching it on the telly, right? Because if you're not enjoying it, you can switch the channel, whatever. You can look on your phone. When you go to the stadium, you go to these games to get away from whatever it is in your life. And if you are, generally speaking, people are immersed in it, aren't they? Of course they are. That's why they keep going. But this year, the quality of football, especially over the past month or 2, you could argue 3, if we go January, February, March. It's gotten worse. It has, and I don't think I'm saying anything ridiculous here, but I do hope it gets better, and I'm open to that, and I think Maresca can, he can change it. He's not as rigid as Sarri was. He's not. But the thing is, when it came to Sarri and that style of play, you had top players, experienced players that could drag you through. You just don't have that now. We have good players, but we don't have that level of experience that I think, okay, Hazard's going to bail me out of this situation, or I've got Pedro who's got experience, or Willian, or even in the midfield, Kante, Jorginho. Like, we don't have that now. We don't have David Luiz and Rudiger at the back. It's just different. So maybe that's part of the reason for my pessimism with the manager as well. But I think realistically, a lot of people probably feel the same way as I do.
It depends. The football, look, it hasn't been great, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't give a shit how we play as long as we win. That's the big thing. No one's going to be saying anything about the style of football if we're winning.
I'm with you on that, Charlie. But do you not agree that the style of play, it's got to be, look, at Tottenham, it's I'd say 70%, right? Tottenham style of play is really important at that club. At Chelsea, it's probably like 30%. It's not as important. But how long do people watch that kind of football and then only finish or play to the standard that we've been playing over the past 2 years, for example, before enough is enough? And you're like, well, you're not playing good football and you're not winning me trophies, and having that.
I think that's the case everywhere, though. Like, I think no one wants to see their team play crap and then not win. I think you only really accept it when you're playing well. Like, when we had Conte, when we had Mourinho, like, we accepted how we played, even when we played, like, extremely defensive part of the bus football, because we won. It was like, it might not be what I like to see, but we're winning, so who cares? Like, I think that's the case of everyone. Like, and it's that you can play really attacking football and look like crap and not win, and people will still be pissed. Because we see that with Tottenham at the moment. United's a great example. Like, they're playing quite defensive football and being crap, and their fans aren't happy. Like, I when it comes to just losing, I don't think style of play matters. Like, I think it depends where you're in the table and how much you're losing. But I think if you start losing quite a bit, then like style of play just doesn't matter, because like the main point is we're losing. And so I think that when it comes to that, it just doesn't matter. And I think that with Chelsea, as you said, it's never really been a main thing with us in terms of style of play. I don't think fans we've really cared. I know some people talk about the Chelsea way. There isn't been a Chelsea way. The Chelsea way is win, like any means possible, just win.
There's too much of a fixation on style of football these days.
Mm-hmm.
People just get proper bogged down with style of football. Yeah, okay, it's important to have an idea. It's important to have a system, a style of play or whatever, but just win. That's it for me. Like, I don't care if you're playing back three, back five, two in the middle, three in the middle, four in the middle, one up front, two up front. It doesn't really matter. Ultimately, there's so many different ways to play football. There's so many different ways to win games of football. I think there's just too much of a fixation on the style of play. Yes, you want to play in a way that suits the players. And of course, in an ideal situation, you want the best of both worlds. You want the results and you want a pleasing style of football on the eye. But ultimately, one thing that matters is winning. I don't give a fuck if we play shit football and win 1-0 every week and we win the Premier League title. Yeah. No one cares. I'm not paying money to be entertained. I'm paying money to watch.
No, of course you are. Of course you are.
No, I want to win, though, mate. If I get entertained as a result, I'm fine. But I'm paying my money because I want to go and see my team win. I'm not paying money to see. We lost 4-3, but it was entertaining, so I don't care.
I disagree with the fact that you pay money to just win. You pay money to be entertained. That's any.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that with that as well, that's what I said. Like, I agree with what you said, Charlie. In terms of I do. If I went and bought a ticket and go watch the match, I want to be entertained. But at the end of the day, like you said, if I'm bored, but we win 1-2-0, and at least us winning stuff, how can I complain? At that point, I'm just being spoiled. I'm just being spoiled at that point. But it's like you said, we did that under Conte. We did that under Mourinho, especially the second period. It was just defensive football part of the bus at times, especially with Conte. His football was terrible, but
we won the league. So who
cares? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's
this is my point, right? What would you, as a fan, what would you rather see? Do you want to go and see your team win 1-0, or do you want to see your team lose 4-3, but you can say, I had a great day out and I was entertained? Ideally, you want both, but all that matters is the result. I don't care if I have a shit day out as long as we win. No one's celebrating. No one's going home and saying, "Oh, by the way, we lost, but I was entertained and we lost 4-3, so it doesn't matter." It's bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes back down to what you get in the end. I do think that it matters if you play a certain brand of football and you only win a certain amount. I think when you have that track record of success, especially us in cup competitions, like we've been good, even when we slipped up in the league. So I could totally accept that. And I wouldn't have a problem with that being our identity. And counter-attacking football, by the way, can still be extremely entertaining. Like, I love counter-attacking football. That's another reason I'm not a fan of Maresca. Because the guy literally doesn't like counter-attacks. I'm like, what? It's like the best goals that you score on the counter. Those are the ones that people really get up for. Because you see that player getting past one or two and you build up that atmosphere as a player's running in. But no, of course it's about winning. Of course it is. But if you're only winning enough to finish 5th or 6th, then it's like I'd like to be entertained as well. I feel like that should also be a priority. But if you're finishing 1st or picking up an FA Cup or whatever it is, like, I could settle for that in that regard. But that's why you've got a lot of other teams who aren't winning things, and style of players is so important. So if you maintain that high level,
though, like if you lose, what difference does it make if you've played well and lost? Like at the end of the day, you've lost. So
no, but you can.
I don't care if I've watched my team play well, but if we played well and lost, is that better than playing shit and losing? You've still lost and it's still shit.
Well, you can use let's use Liverpool away as an example. We lost that game. I actually think we I think we actually outplayed Liverpool.
We played very well.
And I came away from that game with a lot of pride. So you can lose and come away with, I know pride's not everything. You want to pick up the points, but let's speak as fans who go to the games. That's a lot more that's a lot more entertaining than, oh, fucking hell. You understand the point, though. You get something out of that game, and even if you don't win, and it gives you confidence that you can compete. And that's the other thing is if you're losing games or not playing that brand of football, it gives you that feeling going to the next game. It's like, bloody hell, it's going to be another one of them. Whereas at least if your team's going to give it a crack, you've got that faith. All right, we can still make something. Like something can happen from this game. If we're 1-0 down in the 85th minute, like what are the chances of the team going all out to score that next goal? I.e., a few more balls in the box, long balls, maybe sticking an extra player up there.
Yeah, and that's fine. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I've said that many times that when the game warrants it, and he's not switched it up, that needs to be changed in certain circumstances. But I don't get why, if people's first port of call is they want to be entertained, that's fine. In an ideal world, yeah, you want to be entertained and you want to win. All I'm saying is that if I had to pick one or the other, I'd sacrifice being entertained to win. Entertainment is not my first priority. My first priority is winning. And then if I can be entertained at the same time, great. But if one of those has got to be sacrificed, I'm not sacrificing winning. I'm sacrificing being entertained.
Okay. We get a style of football from Maresca, which when it works is lovely, but when it doesn't work, it seems a little bit passive. If you just tweak that a little bit more, then I think you've got a great style of play, and I think that's where Maresca can certainly make an impact for the rest of the season. Is just making those tweaks, and as I said, he has adapted more than what we would have seen from Sarri. I actually think if he would have had Sarri with the same squad, we'd be in a worse position than Maresca, because because Sarri was he was so, like, the guy never changed anything. But I like Sarri, and I trusted that he could deliver some things for Chelsea. I really did like it. I know Lewis did as well. I'm not sure how you boys felt about him, but I liked him. So I've got no issue with seeing, games where the style of play, we struggle a little bit more and it looks repetitive and boring. I haven't got a problem with that. But I just think to myself, based on everything I see with Maresca, for example, I'm like, do I trust this manager? Do I really believe he is the man? And I struggle to see it. To be honest,
too early. I think it's too early to tell. No one can say, oh, he is or isn't the man. Like,
no, but you can give your opinion on it.
Sure, but I think it's too early to say whether he's the guy or not. Less than like after 3/4 of a season. Like, you know, I'm not sitting there and saying, oh, he is or he isn't. But I don't think there's enough evidence to make a decision one way or the other, in my opinion.
But if I had to pin you down to an answer, what would you pick? I mean, my answer, if you said, Alex, based on what you've seen so far, has Maresca shown you that he is capable of being Chelsea's Arne Slot, like Liverpool have, or being our Guardiola, or being Arsenal's Arteta, whatever it is, a manager that they can get behind and trust? Do you feel that way about Maresca? And I say no. I said that I don't see it.
I don't have an answer for that. You know, I think he potentially could be, but we don't know because not enough time has gone by. That's the reality of it. You know, for me, not enough time's passed. There's some good things about him. There's a lot to like about him, and there's things that he obviously needs to improve on massively as well. This is his second season of management at senior level. His second season. You know, he's going to be making mistakes. He's got a lot more to improve upon. Look, he might not be the guy. I'm fully aware that he might not be the guy, and you know, he could be gone at the end of the season if we don't get Champions League. You never know. Or he could be gone at the end of next season.
They won't second.
We don't know. But we need to stick. We've got to stick with a manager for a period of time. We can't just keep ripping shit up and starting again. So whether he is or isn't the guy, he needs at least one more season.
I think for me, from my perspective, I think he could be our equivalent of Guardiola or Slot or Arteta or whatever, if he was given the right backing by the board and the owners. But ultimately, I don't think they're going to buy him the players. I don't think they're always going to buy him the players that suit his system. I think we've seen that this season. And ultimately, Maresca is not the type of manager who you can give anyone to and he can make it work. He is very much like Pep in that sense. Like, there are a few players who you can give Pep, and it's like it doesn't really matter what type of player they are. He can make it work. But I think we've seen, especially this season, that Pep needs a very specific type of player, and that's fine. Like, you can be that type of manager. He's been very successful being that type of manager, and I think Enzo could have not the same level of success, obviously, but I think he could have a level of success doing that. But this board will not give him that type of manager, that type of player all the time. Like, we gave him a left back that wanted to play centre back 4 months into his career with us.
Also, though, you have to think of the way he's managed, the way he's managed some of those players. You probably could have given Vega a go at centre back. I wouldn't have been opposed to it. We haven't exactly been. Well, we haven't exactly had the best options in the middle.
Sure, but I don't think any Chelsea fan was watching us in the first half of the season and thinking, do you know what we really need? Vega at centre back. I don't blame him for Vega not playing at centre back. Chelsea didn't sign Vega to be a centre back. You know, if we told Vega you're coming to be a centre back and then never used him at centre back, fair enough. I'll hold my hands up. But from everything that was reported, Vega was predominantly signed to be a backup left back, but Chelsea liked his versatility that he could play at centre back and could play at midfield if needed. He wasn't signed to be a centre back. You know, that's the reality. And I mean, people might disagree with me, but I haven't watched us once this season, or certainly over the first half of the season when Vega was here, and thought, do you know what we need to do? We really need Renato Vega at centre back. Or we need to try it.
And I think the other thing is like, if you bring him in and play him centre back, like, what does that mean for the other centre backs you've got in your, like, why were they here? Like, why is Cole here if he's got Vega playing over him some games? Why is Badiashile here if he's got Vega playing over him some games? Like, as good as Vega has looked at Juve, and I would have him stay next season as one of the centre back options. I'd have him as the backup left centre back next season. You can't. The way the squad has been built, that's just not possible without other players, like without having a lot of other players missing out. That doesn't make any sense. And I think I don't know if we're going to talk about it, the same with the Reece James situation. Based on Maresca's comments, like, unfortunately, this comes back to another issue of the way the squad's been built. Of it's like, it doesn't fit together properly if you want to move certain players about to fill certain holes.
I mean, when we look at our centre back options, Fofana, Badiashile, Colwell,
Tosin, Chalobah.
Chalobah.
I think there's an argument that Vega could have still been a big part of this squad from January onwards. We don't we know what
not at centre back though.
Not at centre back.
Not at centre back.
So?
No.
He was like the time he's got a Juve, like Juve went and bought Lloyd Kelly in the same window. Like that's how desperate, and are playing him at left back as well. That's how desperate they were for centre backs. Like because their centre backs have been terrible this season. So they could afford to. It's also just the league and everything as well. They could afford to go and get Vega and play him at centre back in those moments. We couldn't. Again, it's like I said, because you're then playing him over Badiashile. So cool. So what's the point of Badiashile being here? Like you might as well have sold him. He's then potentially at times, if he's like playing meaningful games, playing over Colwell. That's a conversation I think needs to be had come the summer anyway. But at that point, it was like, how does this work? Like, why is this happening? That your backup left back you bought in is now playing centre back. Like, I just don't think the minutes were there from him. And also, it's like Charlie said, like this was a guy I think was happy to play left back and happy to be in that position until we got given the minutes for Portugal. It was at that point when Martinez had that conversation with him. That's when it went wrong, because that's when he got told, "I see you as a centre back for internationally going forward." So that's where he's going to need to get the bulk of his minutes, and he didn't. I think what we're seeing now at Juve shows us that, okay, he can have a bigger role, a more focused role at centre-back going forward, which is why I said I think from my point of view, from the summer going forward, I'd have him back in the squad as the backup left centre-back next season. I don't think that was possible earlier in the season.
That probably still won't be enough.
He's getting sold. I know he's getting sold.
But satisfy him, because he wants to play centre back in the World Cup for Portugal. Next season he needs to be playing regular minutes at centre back, and he just won't get them at Chelsea. We're going to sign another centre back this summer, right? Let's say we sign Mark Guehi this summer. Where is he playing? Guehi, Fofana, providing he can stay fit. Colwell, whether people like him or not, is going to be in the mix. Where is Vega getting those regular minutes to make sure that he keeps his place as a centre-back for Portugal at the World Cup? He's not getting regular minutes at centre-back.
How many games, like, let's just go based on starts. How many games, like, do you need to play? But let's just, so we're a team, hopefully finish 5th. We've got Champions League, Premier League, Club World Cup. Well, Club World Cup, we won't count that. You've got your domestic cups as well. So you could be playing, if you're a serious outfit, at least 50 games, right? Maybe 55. Then you've got players that will get injured. So I feel like that he'll still have enough game time, even with having a lot of the other players in there. And that's going under the assumption that Badiashile's just not good enough. Fofana will get injured. Tosin's a rotational option anyway, but he'll get picked ahead of Tosin. Desassi's off. And then you've got Colwell and imagine we sign Guehi from Crystal Palace. That would probably be our starting lineup. But Vega could certainly get a lot of minutes within that outfit. I mean, unless Maresca just kills all the players and doesn't rest anyone, which could happen. But
centre-back's not an area centre-back's not like outfield. You know, you're not making changes at centre-back every couple of games unless someone's having an absolute stinker, or unless someone picks up injuries. Now, of course, you know, some centre-backs will get injured next season. Absolutely. But if everyone's fit, and I know that doesn't, and that's probably unlikely to happen for a whole season, but generally speaking, let's say that the majority of the centre-back pool stays fit, Vega would be lucky to start 20 games of football at centre-back for Chelsea next season.
Mm-hmm. Like, for me, just to kind of give you an idea, like, next season, I'm having 5 centre-backs. That's my core. That's 2 centre-backs in both positions, and then a young guy who can come in, maybe cover, like, that and 5th guy for me is... like that. No, he's gone alone. I'm Achimpong, for example. Like, that 5th guy for me is Achimpong. He can cover a couple of positions, get some minutes at right-back, get some minutes at centre-back, and then I'm having 2 left centre-backs, 2 right centre-backs. Vega's one of those left centre-backs for me. And then I go and get a starter, whether that's Guehi, whether that's like that Murillo kid from Forest, whoever it is, right? And then it's the same at right centre-back. And I think that should be how it is, because like Charlie said, you don't really rotate all that often with with centre backs. I know we've done it quite a bit this season, but I think that's a mixture of injuries. Plus, we've got no real guys who are in form, like at any given point outside of like Cole at the start of the season, and then Fofana before he got injured. Badiashile for like 3 games. So yeah, and I think it's kind of the same with the midfield as well. Like the midfield's a little bit different, but like what we don't want to be doing is getting in a position we were in a Potter where we had like a 34-man squad and it was really bloated, and you've got a manager trying to like coach 34 players, which is impossible for anyone to do. Like it's just impossible. The reason most managers prefer like a 22-man squad, it's just way easier to deal with. So yeah, I don't want to get in that position. And if Vega does come back and play centre back, it means guaranteed Badiashile's gone. Guaranteed he needs to go. It means that Disas is gone anyway. It means if you're going to get another centre back in, you're going to have to figure out one out of Colwell and not Colwell, potentially Colwell, but more likely Fofana or Tosin's got to leave, and it's going to have to be a right-sided centre back. So like it's just, yeah, it's as I said, like I know what I do, but it won't happen. He's going to get sold. I already know he's going to get sold. We bought him for 10 million. It's easy profit to make at this point. You'd be able to sell him to like a half-decent team. You could sell him to a decent, decent Italian team. I know Dortmund had some interest in him. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple of Spanish teams interested in him. Like he's got the fundamentals in terms of technical ability. He's a big guy, good in the air, strong. Like, yeah, like I can see him easily getting sold for 20, 30 million. And there you go. That's what 10, 20 million profit.
Does that make you like? Are you happy to see him gone? Do you think that's good business? Right.
No, I think his stint at Juve has shown me. Like, I think there was already some attributes he had that was really good. I think aerially, he's one of the best guys we have. I think his aggressiveness, while he's a bit like Cucurella in that sense. Like, there's couple of times where he can go too far, but I think in centre back we don't have enough of that. The only one we really have that shows it to the right level is Fofana, and he's way too injury prone, and I would sell him in the summer. And so I like that. And then there's, I think, enough of like his technical ability and everything else that's like you could, with the right manager, and I think Maresca can do this. I think he's done this with some players. You can mold him in the right way to where he can start to like smooth out the rough areas and start to really accentuate what he's good at.
Fair. I mean, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what we do in the summer. I think Guehi's certainly an option, Charlie. I do agree.
Yeah, it's definitely an option. Yeah.
I mean, the fact that we've got such a good, like we're already number one at the table just because of the fact we had the big sell-on fee, which is about 20%, if I'm not wrong. So that gives us a discount from the get-go. And I think it can happen. I really think it can happen. And that guy is totally overlooked by a lot of fans. I don't understand how we haven't spoken more about Guehi. He was, I think it's the best player at the Euros for England.
I would argue right now, he's England's best centre-back right 100%. Now. Because John Stones has fallen off a cliff. It would have been John Stones. Guehi's better than Maguire. I think he's better than Levi Colwell. He's better than
Mings.
He's better than Mings. I would say I would say that he is England's best centre-back right now, is Mark Guehi. And like you look at it, okay, and people looking at a leader at the back, they want quality, they want experience, right? He ticks those boxes. He knows the Premier League. He's 24 years of age, so it's a good age. He knows the football club as well. And he's not going to cost you an absolute fortune. There'll be a year left on his contract in the summer. Plus, we'll get some sort of money off due to the clause that we have in the deal when we sold him. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but name me a centre-back that we can get that's going to tick the boxes we're looking for a better price. That we're not going to get one.
I think we've got the issue. I think I've said this before on other streams. I don't know if I've said it on one of these, but like with the centre-back market, especially who we're looking at, there isn't a perfect centre-back. Like every centre-back we're looking at has their faults. Whether it's they don't have the leadership ability. With Guehi, he doesn't have the aerial ability. That's the one thing. I think the one box he doesn't tick for us is he lacks the aerial ability I think we need. But outside of that, he ticks every other box. Leadership, playing out from the back, can play both sides of a back, can play all different positions in a back three, on the ball. I think he is able to defend wide areas. I think he's able to show that at Palace playing in a back three. So yeah, I think he is the best of all the options we're looking at because he ticks the most boxes. Especially the leadership one is the biggest one.
I think the biggest one is the fact that he's available. I mean, you compare that.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
How many games Guehi's missed for Palace through injury?
About 10 or something, 12.
I think it's 13, mate. 13, and that was out of, I think it was 13 out of 130 something games. So he's played basically 95, 96, 97% of all the games. That is in itself such a good quality. Like, you can't frown upon anything. Any player who's just available. Like, that's where Gallagher was underrated as well. And I know a lot of people didn't like Gallagher. I personally quite liked him. I didn't think he would fit this system, so I didn't have a problem selling him.
He would have played for us a lot, by the way, this year. Not that it matters now. He would have played a lot of minutes, I think. Not starting every week, but given out the injuries to Lavia, I think he would have played. I think he would have played a reasonable amount.
What, as a deep midfielder?
Possibly. I think that there would have been a space for him in the squad this year. I think.
I don't think there would have been. I think you see the amount of minutes KDH has got. That's basically what Gallagher would have got this season.
I probably agree, to be honest, mate. I do agree. Although I thought KDH was going to be a lot better.
He's especially not playing as a deep midfielder. You saw how he was under Tuchel when he did that. Even at times under Potter and Poch as well. Like, the one thing I'll say about Gallagher is he's not my favourite player. I think people have seen me on other channels. They know how I feel about him. But the one thing I can say, he's way better further up the pitch. The one thing he cannot do is play like closer to goal, our goal.
No. So yeah, in terms of centre backs, we could actually be fine if we just bring in one competent centre back like Guehi, who I know I can rely on as well. He won't get injured. I'm relatively confident that we'll do fine, and I think Tossin's good depth. He's not starting, but I'm happy to have him as part of the squad. I'm happy to have Vega. Can appreciate if he does get sold though, not just because of the profit that we make, that because the player probably wants to leave. So I could see that.
We do need if we sell Vega, I mean, arguably even if we keep Vega, we still need a left back. There is no real proper backup to Cucurella. It's all very well saying.
Do you think he'll come back next year?
No, he's not. He's not. He doesn't fit the system at all.
Why the fuck did we sign him?
Because there's so much profit. That's probably why.
Yeah.
There isn't a backup for Cucurella. There simply isn't. Obviously, Vega has done it on a few occasions. It's not quite the same thing. You can tell that left back's not really his favoured position. We need to go and I'm fed up of this. Oh, he can play there nonsense.
Yeah.
Just get me specialists in their positions. Go and sign another left back. I mean, obviously Milos Kerkez would be ideal. Don't think it's not going to happen. But we need to go and get a specialist left back. Because if Cucurella gets injured, we're fucked.
What about DeMarco? Is he potentially?
We're never going to sign him. And Italian clubs always ask for the most money, and then they try to get your players for the least money possible.
The issue with DeMarco as well is, like, if he's signing for us, no, he can play. He has played a lot of centre back for Inter. Like, the way they play is so weird.
I thought he would play on the left. No,
he's
left wing back. Yeah,
he plays like left
as well. He seems quite nifty.
Oh, he plays like he has played left centre back. I think for Italy in the World Cup, Euros, whatever it was, we just last had Euros. I think it was. He played a couple games like at centre back when they went like really attacking. For me, it's more just like if he comes in, he's expecting to start. I think is the biggest thing. And so I agree. And then you've got the weird dynamic of like he's not starting. Like Cucurella for me has been arguably the best left back in the league this season. So anyone that you get behind him has to be not comfortable, but has to come in knowing that's who I'm competing with, and most likely I'm starting on the bench to begin with. That's why Vega to begin made sense. Made perfect sense having him to begin with. Because like, okay, cool. He's come from Basel. He knows he's not starting. Like, so it's kind of a good mix there.
I do have a very, very small bit of sympathy. It is, and this is small, by the way, because they got a lot of shit wrong, but it is difficult to find the type of players that are good enough to come in and the drop-off not be too big when the first choice is injured, but are also happy to accept that when the first choice player is injured, they're not getting much of a look in. It is very difficult to find that.
That's what I mean. That's why, mate. That's why I like Tossin, for example. Because let's be honest, we know he's not the best player in the world, but the guy doesn't cause us any problems.
He's the only centre back.
We need.
It's a fourth choice centre back, and it's fine.
He's the only. If I had my choice, he's the only centre back I'm keeping in the summer.
Okay, so we agree with that then, yeah.
Yeah.
So
as a fourth choice, no problem.
Yeah, he'd be the backup right centre back.
A similar attitude as well to toss in, like we'd be fine. We wouldn't have any problems. But everyone's got this ego that they're going to be the next best thing. And well, João Felix is probably the best example. And he goes to all these different clubs, and the same thing happens. It's like the clubs aren't the problem here. If you were good enough, you would have already been signed by Barcelona, or you would have been signed the first time by us, to be quite frank. I mean, looking at that, you'd think, well, why didn't you just sign him before under Pochettino? Well, we know why, because Poch didn't want him, but now we can appreciate why. But yeah, listen, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. Big up to Charlie and Scott. Thanks for coming on, guys. Appreciate your time. A big up to everyone in the chat as well. We've got just over 80 people in it. Smash the like button. Let's get up to 80 likes on the live, and subscribe to the channel as well if you haven't already. Charlie's channel should be in the description as well. Go and check that out. And listen, guys, we will be back. We won't have a show tomorrow. We will be back on Monday night. We'll have a live show at 8 o'clock, unless you want to watch the pod as well, which we recorded yesterday, about Copenhagen, as well as all things Chelsea as well. Big up to everyone, and we'll catch up very, very